Hi, Jimmy. Thank you very much for taking my call. I'm a big fan, and it's been really helpful to me. So thank you.
My pleasure. Glad to be of service.
Yeah, I love your podcast as well, and I hope that you guys will definitely do the match because I think Catholic Answers is a great service. So,
that's very nice of you.
Yeah. One thing that's not so mysterious as your podcast, though, Jimmy, is the book of Samuel, and particularly David's depiction in it. It seems like a skeptical reader reading the book would think that David is a ruthless and power-hungry man, and God is being used like a prop for his successors to cover for him. So do you have any thoughts about this in general, or I could give you specific possible objections?
Well, the more specific, the more I have something I can interact with. I mean, if we keep things at a strictly general level, I can make general responses, but why don't you give me some specifics?
Yeah, so first that it seems like Saul has abandoned my God too easily because his actions don't seem nearly as bad as David's with Bathsheba.
Okay. Well, this is something that depends on modern estimations of rightness and badness. It also depends on the assessment of the interior hearts of these individuals. So if you read the text of the books where Samuel and David appear, they don't present David and you say, what did the author of these books believe about these two men? They don't present the author or authors as viewing Saul as being a better person than David. In fact, Saul is presented as a quite flawed individual. And David is presented as having flaws too, but not on the magnitude of Saul. What David is presented as is someone who, despite his flaws, is very devoted to the Lord. In fact, he's described as a man after God's own heart. And so it seems that the objection that you're imagining someone making is one that must, of its nature, reject the opinion of the sacred author and is actually trying to subvert the sacred author's opinion and saying, oh, no, we need to look at it some other way. And if you do that, well, if you don't have some other source of information, which we don't, but if you don't have some other source of information, then you're playing a game that anybody can play. If I can look at the only source of data we have and reject its own interpretation of events and just come up with my own interpretation based on my suspicions or ideas that are just speculative, that are not supported by any other data, then I could make anyone look good or bad. I could do the reverse and say of the objection that you're proposing and say, actually, the sacred author is playing down just how awesome David was. David totally kicked butt, and he was way better than this skeptical, cynical author of 1st and 2nd Samuel thinks. David totally rocked, and he was even better than Saul by orders of magnitude. Well, if I can do that, I mean, if your cynical objector can do the reverse of that without any basis in other sources, then I could do the same thing in the other direction. So I think it's ultimately a fairly useless game to say, let's detach ourselves from the data we have and offer new interpretations that subvert what's actually claimed in the data by making proposals for things that we don't actually have evidence for. At least that's what I do off the top of my head.
You know what? I'm going to leave that there.